A piece of land can look just fine from the road. Green grass, a row of trees, a pretty view on a Sunday afternoon, and still be a piece of land that eats your savings whole. It happens to good people every year. They drive past a for sale sign, fall in love with the view, and sign the papers a week later, and only then learn that the ground won't drain, or that there's no legal way to put in a driveway, or that the spot they picked for the house sits right in the flood path. By then it's too late. They're standing on land they can do nothing with. Here's why it keeps happening. Most people look at country land the way they'd look at a house in town, at the view and the price, not the ground. But the ground is the thing. The view fades and the price fades from memory. The ground either lets you build the life you came for, or it refuses. So today you'll learn to read a piece of land the way an old farmer reads it before he ever signs his name, by walking it, or just sitting at the kitchen table with the maps open. 6 checks, only 6. Learn them, and you can tell good ground from bad in about a minute, and you'll never be a person who can be sold bad land. One of the 6 quietly kills more deals than the other 5 combined, and it's the one you can't see with your eyes. We'll get to it. Take them in order, because many pieces fail on the very first check, and when they do, you stop right there. Let's walk the 6. Check 1, before anything else, access. Can you get to the land? It sounds almost too simple to say, but it traps more first-time buyers than anything else, because access has 2 parts, and most folks only check 1. The first part is physical access. Can you actually drive there? Is there a road that touches the land, or a way to put a driveway in without crossing a creek, a cliff, or a swamp? Stand at the edge of the public road and ask, how would I get a truck onto this place? If you can't answer that easily, you have a problem. The second part is the one people miss, legal access. That's the right to cross whatever sits between the public road and your land. Here's the trap. A parcel can look like it touches the road on the map, when really there's 100 feet of someone else's woods between you and the pavement. Or there's a path the neighbors have always used, but that path is on their deed, not yours. They can be polite about it for 30 years, then sell to a new owner who puts up a gate. Now you can't reach your own land. Land with no road frontage and no recorded right to cross is what they call landlocked, and unless you can buy your way over someone else's ground, it's worth almost nothing, no matter how pretty it is. So make sure the right to cross is written into the deed and filed at the courthouse. A recorded easement, a permanent legal right-of-way. A handshake is worth nothing once the neighbor is gone. And if the land does run along the public road, that's a blessing. More frontage means you could split it and sell a piece later. Access first always. No access, no land worth buying. Check 2 is the one warned about a moment ago, the costliest mistake of all, and the one you cannot see from the road, the soil. Out in the country, away from the city sewer, it comes down to one word, septic. The wastewater from your home goes into a septic system in the ground beside the house, and that system only works if the ground will drink the water, let it trickle slowly down and away. Some ground does that beautifully, sandy, well-drained soil that water disappears into after a rain. Other ground won't. Heavy clay that turns to gumbo when wet, or low ground where the water table sits a foot down. And here's the cruel part. Good soil and bad soil look exactly alike from the road. Same grass, same trees, same view. One lets you build a home, the other will not. The way you check is a percolation test, a perk test for short. You dig a hole, fill it with water, and time how fast it drains. The county health department or a soil scientist does it for a few $100s and hands you a piece of paper that says yes or no. And before you ever drive out, you can pre-check it for free from home. The USDA's Web Soil Survey maps the drainage class of nearly every acre in the country. If it flags heavy clay or a high water table, you already know to walk that one carefully. Why does this check matter most? Because the very same parcel, identical to the eye, can be worth several times more with a passing perk test than without. One version lets you build, the other is nearly worthless, so never close on rural land you mean to build on until a perk test is in your hand. Most contracts let you make it a condition. If the test fails, you walk away with your money back. Use that. It's the most important piece of paper in the whole purchase. And budget for the system itself, roughly $5,000 to $25,000 depending on the type. Real money, but a one-time cost, and you'll never have a sewer bill again. Check 3. The slope, how steep the ground is. Walk it, or look at it on the satellite picture, where the contour lines, the thin elevation lines, sit close together for steep ground and far apart for flat. Flat ground is cheap to build on. The foundation, the well, the driveway all cooperate. Steep ground fights you at every step. The foundation costs more, the driveway has to be cut into the hillside, the septic field has to be engineered for the slope, and the rain runs off carrying your topsoil with it. A little slope is good, it drains water away from the house. But once it climbs past about 10 or 15%, slope turns into a real expense. Here's the simple farmer's check. Walk the spot where the house would go. If you wouldn't want to push a wheelbarrow across it, neither will the truck pouring your foundation. Then look around. Are the other houses built on slopes like yours, or tucked into flat pockets someone already noticed were better? If everyone's on the flats and your spot is on the steep, ask yourself why. Check 4. Water, where it goes, and where it stays. Stand on a piece of land in dry weather and it looks fine. Come back after 3 days of rain and you may see a very different picture. Water collects in the low spots. Patches that looked like meadow turn out to be wetland, soft ground that holds water year-round, where you cannot legally build, cannot fill, and cannot even cross with a driveway. The laws protecting those places are serious about it. The other thing is the flood zone. Every county now has a map showing where the rivers reach when they flood. You do not want to build in the 100-year flood zone, the area that floods roughly once in a long lifetime, because the flood insurance is costly, and a bank may not even lend on a house sitting there. And there's a worse one called the floodway, the river's actual channel when it runs high, where you can't build at all. Both maps are free, and you should pull them before you ever fall in love with a place. FEMA's Flood Map Service Center shows the flood zones for any address. The National Wetlands Inventory from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service shows the wet ground. So here's the check anyone can do. Visit the land after a hard rain, not on the dry sunny day the seller wanted you there. Look at where the water sits and where the ditches run. Then pull up those 2 maps at home. A small creek in one corner can be a blessing. Land that's mostly wet ground is a piece of paper you'll do little with. Check 5 is what the place looks like from the road, what the city folks call street view. You should absolutely walk every piece you're serious about. But before you make a 2-hour trip to see 10 properties, there's a modern tool that lets you stand on the road in front of almost any address in the country without leaving your kitchen. It shows you what neither the listing photos nor the satellite picture will. Your daily view when you pull out of the driveway. Is the road pretty? Are the neighboring places cared for? Or is the lot across the road piled with junked cars and a tarp that's been blowing in the wind for 10 years? If you're going to pull out of that driveway every morning for 20 years, that view is your view, and you should know it before you sign. The same goes for power lines overhead, a busy road at your door, a cell tower, a noisy yard down the lane, all the things the listing photos were framed to leave out. If it looks fine on the screen, make the trip. If it doesn't, you've saved yourself a day's driving. Check 6. What sits around the land? The bird's eye look from straight overhead. Stand way back. Zoom the satellite out and look at what's within half a mile, 2 miles of the place. Because the land in front of you can be beautiful, and the land right next to it can ruin it. The big things first: large livestock operations, hog barns, poultry houses, big dairies and feedlots. These are real farms doing real work, but you don't want to build downwind of one. The smell on a hot, still summer day will keep your windows shut for weeks, and there's no fixing it after you've moved in. Find them on the picture, and note which way the wind generally comes from. If the operation sits upwind of your land, that's a serious mark against the place. Then look for the rest: junkyards and scrapyards, bright with metal where there ought to be field, quarries that throw dust for miles, logging that could turn your quiet woods into the edge of a clear-cut next year, landfills, train tracks, busy roads, big new solar and wind installations. None is necessarily ruinous, but each is a thing to know before you pay, not after. And look for the good signs too: a church, a well-kept neighbor, a fishing pond. Sometimes the picture tells you the place is even better than you thought. 6 checks. Access, soil, slope, water, the road view, the wider view, walked in that order. Now, a minute doesn't sound like enough for all that, and on the first land you ever check, it isn't. But once you know how, you sit at the kitchen table with the maps and pictures on a screen and run all 6 in about a minute, just to decide whether a piece is worth a serious look. Most fail on an early check, and you stop right there. The ones that pass all 6, you go walk in person, and those you pay a soil scientist to test and get a title search, title insurance, and a proper survey on. That careful work, you never skip. Because the reason most folks lose money on bad land isn't that the bad land is hidden. It's that nobody ever taught them to look. The seller shows you the prettiest hour on the prettiest day. Nobody plants a sign at the edge of the field that says this soil won't drain, or there's no legal way across. And nobody at the closing table is paid to slow you down. The seller profits when you don't ask. The agent's commission grows when the deal closes. The lender wants to lend. Only you are on your own side. So you be the one who slows down. The seller will say the land is moving fast, but it sat there for 10,000 years, and it can sit a little longer while you do your homework. Do that, and country land becomes one of the great blessings of this life, a few acres of your own, paid for with good soil and clean water and a road to it. The view will fade, and the price will fade, but the ground decides whether you get to live the life you came for. So before you look at the next for sale sign with serious interest, write the 6 on a card and keep it in your pocket. Tell us in the comments, have you ever walked a piece of land you almost bought, and what nearly got you? Those stories teach the next person more than any video could. And next time, now that you can spot bad land, we'll cover what good land is actually worth, so you don't overpay for a fine piece either. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Until then, walk the ground, check the 6, and never sign in a hurry.